Welcome back, everybody. On today's Do Now, I wanted you thinking about voting. If you wanted to vote in Colorado, what sort of steps would you need to take in order to be able to vote? You got an election coming up, 6 months or so. If you want to vote in it, what do you have to do? Today, we're going to talk about voting and sort of our active role in it. Remember, this unit's all about how do we participate in our government. So yesterday we talked about the things you have to do, like taxes and jury duty. Now we're going to start getting into things that are a little bit more optional. You don't have to vote. But if you did vote, what do you have to do in order to make that happen? All right, so if you want to vote in Colorado, this is going to change if you go to another state. Some of their laws are slightly different. But you have to be 18 at the time of the election. So the election is going to be, I can find it real quick. November 5th will be the election this year. If you are 18 by November 5th, you are allowed to vote. And that's one of the requirements. You also have to have lived in Colorado for the past 22 days before. Right? So you have to be there for a little bit more than 3 weeks. So you got to be living in Colorado since mid-October. You cannot be a current felon, cannot currently be in prison, and some paroled felons are not allowed to vote in Colorado either. You go to other states and it's all felons. For the rest of their life are not allowed to vote, and certain prisoners are allowed to vote versus not. It kind of depends on the state. But in Colorado, you cannot be a imprisoned felon, and then certain pardoned felons can't be voting either. You also have to have registered to vote. You have to fill out a form requesting the right to vote with proof of address at least 1 week before the election. So you actually have to actively fill out a voter registration form. I'll talk about that in a second. And you have to do it at least a week. I think it's actually 8 days, like 8 days in advance of the election. If you want it mailed to you, which we'll talk about in a second, you have to do it before the mailing deadline, which means it's a month and 8 days or something ahead of time. All right, so you have to fill out a form beforehand. That's basically it. In order to vote in Colorado, you need to fulfill these things. Now, the easiest way to do this is to do it at the DMV when you're getting your driver's license. When you turn 18, you're required to get a new driver's license. The one from 16 and 17 won't work anymore. So at 18, you have to go get a new license, and they will ask you, hey, while you're here, would you like to register to vote? And you'll just punch in some stuff for you, and then boom, you're registered to vote. All right, it's very easy to do while you're getting your ID. You can say no thanks, that's fine. But it's also really easy to just say yes, and they kind of fill out the form for you. If you don't do this, that's okay, because registering to vote is really easy. Here is the site, takes you to a little quick form. Now, before the election, people will be out trying to get registers to vote and all this stuff. It's really easy to do. You can do it online. There's only a few boxes to fill out. You have to be a citizen. You have to have your name, your birthday, either your Colorado driver's license or your social security number, your address for where you receive mail, which will probably be the same, where you want your ballot sent, which will probably be the same. Do you want to join a party, which we haven't talked much about, but if you'd like to join a party, you can pick one. Or you can say, no, I don't want to be part of a party, be unaffiliated. Then you have to say, are you updating a current record? You have to sign it, and that's it. You're done. That's the whole form. It's not very complex. The back just has frequently asked questions. All right, so this is not a complex form. It doesn't take a whole lot to fill out. And once you do, you are now officially allowed to vote when the election comes around. All right, so when you do vote, if you have been registered to vote, Colorado is going to start mailing you stuff. All right, first thing they're going to mail you is something called a Blue Book, which is going to come months in advance. We haven't gotten the one yet for 2024, so here's the one from a couple years ago. And they'll send you a paper copy. It's obviously a digital one, and the cover is going to be blue, but it's going to look just like this. As you open it, it's going to have all the stuff you're voting on. All the different laws and stuff you vote on. As you go through these different laws, it's going to give you arguments. It's going to tell you what does it mean when you vote yes or no. Then it's going to give you arguments for and against stuff. Let me see. Scroll until I find that. All right, so this is a summary about this thing. Arguments for, if you want to vote for Amendment D or against it. It's going to talk about what does it mean. You can read and sort of summarize, kind of like I give you. Right? When we look at the death penalty, I gave you arguments for and against. This will give you arguments for and against. You'll have to make up your own mind when you decide to vote. This will be mailed to you, like I said, months in advance. They'll be at every DMV library. The school will have a copy. You can find them online. They're all over the place to help you vote. Then, a month or so before the election, they're going to send you a ballot in the mail. Can I open up? Oh, maybe they're not going to show me what the ballot looks like anymore. This was a link to what the ballot looked like, but now it's not showing. It's okay. They'll send you a ballot in the mail. Let's see if I can find it. I was hoping they'd have an actual copy of the ballot. I'll have to find that. But they'll send you a ballot in the mail, and in that envelope, you'll open up, there'll be a ballot. There'll be another envelope inside. What you need to do is you fill out the ballot by mail. All right, so you're going to fill out your ballot, put it back in the new envelope, and you can either mail it back or drop it off. If you want to vote in person, you can, but they're going to mail you your ballot. You have to bring that ballot to the voting booth and then fill it out there. So it's easier to just fill it out at home, mail it back in, or drop it back. So here's the official drop boxes. Right? They're all over the place. You fill out your ballot, you sign it, you seal it, you put it back in one of these drop boxes when you're done. Anytime between when you get it and the day of the election, there'll be a time cutoff. It'll be 7 p.m. election day. All right, so here they are in Denver. You can see they're scattered all over the place. They're drive up. You just drive up, drop it off, and you're done. Very easy way to vote. You vote at your time, whenever it works for you, in that entire month. Figure out a time to fill out the ballot and drop it off, and you're good. And then, since we do this, Colorado has their results really fast because they're counting these votes as they're coming in. All right, we'll watch a video on voting. You can pause this one while we watch. Now, with Colorado and a lot of states using this mail-in ballot issue, it opens up the door for a lot of corruption, voter fraud. Right? Are the people who are getting the mail really the people filling out the ballot? And then when they show up, have they been faked? They're out of officials' control for a month. Are we sure we're getting real ballots back? And there are a lot of accusations in 2020 that some people were cheating when it came to counting ballots and using ballots. So there's a lot of people who want in-person ballots, and then if they're in person, is it really them? So there's been a big push recently to have voter IDs, meaning in order to vote, you have to show your ID. You have to show proof that it's you, and that every person gets only one ballot, and that's it. And that's the person who's actually filling it out and turning it in. So we're getting a correct, actual count of who voted what. So many states are trying to create new laws when it comes to voting, and one of the big issues is, should people have to show an ID? Should you have to show an ID to be able to vote in the United States? Well, there's going to be a lot of arguments for and against. What we're going to do as a class is we're going to read some documents. So here's one view. What you need to do is tell me, what's the main idea of this passage? What is the author trying to say? So the goal of this passage is to talk about how voter ID can reduce accidental or purposeful manipulation, people accidentally filling out ballots or people deliberately trying to mess with it, to game the system so that they can get 20, 30, 40 more votes in for each person, and do voter fraud and cheat the system. So this author is saying voter ID can stop voter fraud. What about this author? What is this author saying? So this author is saying, okay, but it's sometimes hard to get IDs that count. What counts as an ID? Right? Not everyone has a driver's license. So what do you need? And they talk about there's certain groups of people that don't have driver's licenses, like African Americans, Hispanic Americans. And you look at different sort of forms of ID that are accepted, tend to be IDs that whites and Asians have, but the IDs that Hispanic and African Americans tend to have that aren't driver's licenses tend to be not accepted. So a lot of people argue that this will hurt minorities disproportionately. Voter IDs will stop certain people from voting. You really want laws that make it harder for people to vote? All right, now we got a political cartoon. What do you think the author's trying to say about voter ID laws? Are they praising them or criticizing them? So this author is saying new voter ID laws are like a maze, right? You should be able to just walk in and vote, right? You shouldn't have to go through all these hoops and go through all these different mazes to try and figure out how to vote. You should just be allowed to vote, right? So voter ID laws might be overly complicated and make it harder for people to vote. And what's this author trying to say? So this author's got a lot going on it. We got Uncle Sam's hand sticking out, holding up voter ID laws, right? Uncle Sam putting voter ID laws. It's scaring who? Is that a donkey or an elephant? It's a donkey, which is Democrats, or like Dracula, that Democrats are using election fraud, but voter ID will stop them. So this is calling out one specific side of politics, saying you are manipulating the system. You're afraid of voter ID because it's going to actually stop you from winning elections because you're cheating. So this author is criticizing Democrats for cheating and praising voter ID laws. What we're going to do next is we're going to go through a level 4 response on the Pear Deck. So you get a chance to respond. First, we just need a claim. Should the U.S. have more voter ID laws? I want you to give me a claim. They should or should not, and give me your best reason why. This would be a one sentence. The U.S. should or should not have more strict voter ID laws because. And pause this video if you need more time. The next, I want you to give me some sort of evidence, fact, or example. All right, as seen in the second document. Or, for example, this. Give me some fact or evidence. This isn't you just repeating your reason. You're not coming up with opinions here. This is a fact, information that backs up your opinion. Again, pause this video if you need to. Next, we need the analysis. Why is your reason so important? How is your reason supposed to convince people to change their mind? Right? Why'd you bring up what you did? Why is that more important than anything else you could say? Next, the counterclaim. What does the other side have to say? I'm going to say, on the other hand, here's this argument. Then you have to challenge it, disagree with that. How could you disagree with whatever the counterclaim is?